After 3 years, the royal family will return to Sandringham this weekend for their first Christmas without the Queen.
But what will they be getting up to over the festive period? King Charles's former Communications Secretary, Kristina Kyriacou, is joining us with an insight into all the celebrations. Busy all the time. How are you?
I'm good, thank you both very much. Very, very good.
Can we just, because we were gossiping beforehand, you drove past our house in County Wicklow in Ireland when King Charles was Prince Charles and you visited the Reconciliation Centre. The most unlikely thing, I'm sitting to have a coffee on this little country road, you might see the odd kind of sheep or tractor, and next thing, royal family drive by really slowly.
That's absolutely right, Craig. If only we'd known it was your home, we'd have done a special visit. I think in the photographs of that tour of Ireland, I'm in the background looking particularly harassed, running around behind the prince as he was then, the now king. So, yeah.
Such a busy, busy man, and the work he's done behind the scenes, because that wasn't publicised, the elements of that journey, but the elements of reconciliation from Prince Charles and a lot of the royal family, but in particularly from King Charles, has been incredible. Working behind the scenes, just fixing things gently, subtly.
Do you know, I love that, Craig. That is absolutely what the King is best at, that he is a convener, he's a listener, he's a mediator. And on that tour of Ireland, we did the historic Gerry Adams handshake. And Her Majesty indeed did the tour of Ireland, which brought about reconciliation. And he continued that work. And so I will always have that fond memory of how we've brought everyone together again, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it was a very special time.
Oh, I bet he just adores you.
I hope he does. Who knows?
He's got a good sense of humour, though, hasn't he?
Josie, he's got a great sense of humour. He's got an absolutely great sense of humour. And in fact, I ran into him a year ago, and the first thing he said was, "How is Muttley?" And Muttley's my dog. And it just made me laugh that he always remembers Muttley. He just remembers something about every person he meets.
I can only imagine how hard it must be, just constantly having to be on show. Look, I know a lot of people see it as a very privileged lifestyle, but the work element, it must be exhausting. How does he keep doing it every single day? Because the number of engagements are in the 600s per year.
Yes, I mean, some years he's racked up 750 engagements a year. And when you think there's 365 days in a year, he's a man in his 70s, the Queen Consort, the same. And they have consistently racked up the most amount of public engagements a year, along with his sister, Princess Anne. And they're the most hardworking royals. Now, as King and Queen Consort, they will have no desire to diminish that. He has to take on a slightly different role, which we're beginning to see leading into Christmas. But his service to the British public is paramount. He absolutely loves meeting people. He really does.
Like his mum.
It's completely just like Her Majesty.
Talking of engagements, the annual Royal Christmas lunch took place. Who attended?
Yes, so I think we saw the Christmas lunch this year that Her Majesty traditionally held at Buckingham Palace moved to Windsor Castle, which is rather nice. And I think we saw that Princess Anne was there. We saw that Mike Tyndall and Zara Phillips were there. So that's sort of like the precursor to the big event, the main event that all of us are waiting for, which for them this year will be back at Sandringham.
Let's talk Christmas cards. Always eagerly awaited. What have the Christmas cards been like? Are they out already? Have they been sent?
The Christmas cards are out. I think the King and the Queen Consort are late with theirs, but I think they're being distributed now. The most touching thing about the King's Christmas card is that they've chosen a picture that is of him from when he was Prince of Wales. So earlier in the year, 5 days before Her Majesty passed away, he's shown enjoying himself with the Queen Consort at the Braemar Games in Scotland. And Braemar was a very, very significant event for Her Majesty and both of them. So that is the picture on the King's Christmas card.
And they give their Christmas presents a little bit differently to us. They give them on another day.
They do, Josie. So one has to remember the history and their German ancestry. And as with many European countries, they give out their Christmas presents on Christmas Eve. So the tradition has been that at Sandringham, they lay out their Christmas gifts on trestle tables. And then just around tea time, they open their Christmas gifts on the 24th. But I should say at this point that I don't think there's any enormous outpourings of cash with the Christmas gifts. It's very much a jokey, humorous, gifting, and it's almost who can get the most laughs with their gifts. So I think a lot of fun is had, and indeed, I think in the past there's been some wonderful Christmas gifts. I think it was Princess Anne who gifted her brother a toilet seat. And that's because everyone said he travelled with his own toilet seat, which he doesn't. And so she gifted him a toilet seat. And then I think Prince Harry has come up with some fantastic gifts as well. There was a big mouth Billy Bass fish that was very popular in Australia that Harry brought to the equation. And Her Majesty is rumoured to absolutely have loved that and kept it at Balmoral prominently on a mantelpiece so she could always hear the fish spouting off and his tail flapping away. She loved that.
I know which one you
maybe
mean.
less
Yes,
from Harry
yeah.
this year. Yeah. Let's talk about Christmas Day. What's it look like for a member of the royal family?
So Christmas Day, I think, is obviously a traditional event. We're all used to seeing Her Majesty leading the family to the little church in Sandringham and the well-wishers being greeted outside the church. Obviously, this is a seismic change this year. Her Majesty only just over, I believe, 4 months since she passed away. And the King will lead a good showing of the royal family to the church at Sandringham. I think this really is a time where they'll display togetherness, they'll display unity, and I suspect William and Kate will be there. They've invited, apparently, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, which again shows that pulling together of family. Beatrice and Eugenie, hugely popular members of the family. The Earl and Countess of Wessex will be there. So a really, really lovely showing pre the Christmas lunch. And then they'll go back and have their Christmas lunch. I believe the children are often separated into another room so they can run riot. So I think they're separated into a room next door, and goodness knows, like any children at Christmas, what goes on in that room.
That's the fun room. That's the room to be in. Thank you so much.
Yeah, be a very different Christmas, but we wish them a Merry Christmas and we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you both
so
very much,
Great
and to
talking
you. Thank you.
You should have popped in with them for a coffee.
Oh, if only.